Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. We're talking about God's covenant here, okay? We're in chapter 15, and remember last time I said we're going to do chapter 15 in 2 episodes. So we talked about verses 1 through 7 already. Today we're going to continue on looking at verses 8 through 21, okay? And again, this is God's covenant with Abram. So let's dive right in here and see what this covenant is. But Abram said, "Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" Okay, so God had just said, let me read verse 7 here. It says, he also said to him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it." Okay, so he said, "I'm going to give you possession of all this land." And now Abram goes, how do I know? And so, how do I know I'm going to take possession of it? So this is what happens. Verse 9. So the Lord said to him, "Bring me a heifer and a goat and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon." Abram brought all these things to him and cut them in two and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. Okay. So Abram, so this is the way you would establish a covenant back then. You would have a animal, and you would cut it in half, and you would walk. Let's say I had a cow, and I cut that thing in half. You'd split it in half. You'd lay one on one side, one on the other, and then I would walk this way, and you would walk the other way. We would meet halfway, and it was that was what we did with the covenant. Today we like shake hands. Hey, you got yourself a deal. But this is the way they did a covenant back then. Cutting the animal in half and then it'd be sacrificed. Okay, it'd be burned up. So Abram does this. God tells him, get these things, and he lays it all out. And the birds of prey come along, and he's trying to keep all the birds of prey away. Those are the vultures and everything else. And so obviously he's not. You're going to see here, Abram is not the one that is the covenant maker, really, okay? He's a covenant taker, you're going to see. Verse 12, as the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. So Abram couldn't even keep the covenant. I mean, he couldn't. He was like, he set it up, and then the birds of prey were coming along trying to eat it, and then he falls asleep, okay? So he gets the birds together, gets the animals together, but he can't, walk through it because he fell asleep here. All right. Verse 13. Then the Lord said to him, "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation that they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions." Okay, so what God is really prophesying here to Abram is that you're going to be slaves in a foreign land. Okay, and we know that today as Egypt. Okay, and so they went to Egypt and were there for the 400 years. Okay, verse 15. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace, and will be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. Okay? So God is telling him, hey, Abraham, don't worry about going to Egypt and all that. He doesn't even say Egypt here. He just says a foreign land. Okay? He says they'll be enslaved in a foreign land. And he says, but don't worry about it for yourself, because you're going to die, and you'll just die peacefully, and everything will be fine. And then they will come back. They will be enslaved there, and then they will come back to the promised land. And he says, but not yet, and the reason is that they can't. This can't all just happen right yet. They have to wait for these 4 generations here, the 4th generation. They can't come back yet because the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full potential or full measure. Okay, so God was seeing, and the Amorites is the generic people group of Canaan. Okay, so there was some other people groups there, and when Joshua was called into the promised land, he was told to destroy all the people that lived there because their sin was so great. And the sin was so great because they were involved with all kinds of, child molestation, sacrificing your children to Molech, all kinds of stuff like that. And God was fed up with it. It wasn't as bad back with Abram, but it got worse and worse and worse. Okay, so God is waiting until it gets to this bad point before he allows the people in, and then it's really God's judgment on these people for their wickedness. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's continue on. Verse 17. When the sun had set, darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot and a blazing torch appeared and passed between the two pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, to your descendants I give this land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kedmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Raphanites, Amorites, Canaanites, Gigarites, and Jebusites. Okay? The Lord said, I'm going to give you all that land. Okay? Several things here is this land that was just told what he would have is a huge land. And the Israelites, when they went back into that land with Joshua, they didn't possess all that land. They never did possess all that land that God gave them. Okay? In fact, with Solomon probably possessed the most land of any at any time that the Jewish people had that land, and that was only really like 10%, okay, of the land that God had promised them if they would take it, but they didn't take it, okay. So, and then the other thing is, you see here that Abram he fell asleep, fell into a dream, and then God, brought the fire pot in and burned up the sacrifices and so forth. So Abram did nothing as far as this covenant. The covenant was to Abram, all right? And Abram was really just supposed to receive that covenant. Abram really didn't have to do anything except, believe in God, and that's what he did. But it wasn't like, okay, if you do this and this and this and pay me $50 or whatever. It wasn't like that at all. It was God saying, I'm giving you all this stuff. Okay, I'm giving you this land. I'm giving you all these descendants, all that stuff. And so Abram was really receiving. Okay, it's not like the fair deal that we would have today. And God's not like that. He's more giving. He's giving way more than I deserve. And it's the same as it was here. Abram received more than what was due him, really. Okay, he wasn't, supposed to receive anything. Okay, but God gave him way more than that. And the thing is, he does the same thing with me. Okay, he gives me way more than I deserve. I don't deserve salvation, but God gives me salvation, and it's not from my own works. It's nothing that I do. And that you can see that with Abram. Abraham couldn't do anything. He couldn't even keep the birds of prey off the animals. Okay, and it's nothing that I can do. It's only through God. Okay, and that's the covenant in Genesis 15 here. It's God giving it. Thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we're going to jump into chapter 16 of Genesis. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.